Welcome to NAM Week 2021. My name is Alfrelyn Roberts, and I want to welcome you to our week-long celebration. Our regional directors have worked to put together a great week of performances and conversations for your enjoyment. We're looking forward to hearing from Vinroy Brown and the Eastern Region, Daniel Washington and the Central Region, Baron Coleman and the Southwestern Region, Bernice Hall and the Southeastern Region, Timothy Davis Jr., and the Western Region. Our Collegiate Young Artist Division, led by Director Daniel Washington, and the Youth and Juniors Division, led by Director Nina Scott, will also be featured on Tuesday and Wednesday, respectively. And of course, we will take a moment to remember those who have passed since our last NAM Week in 2020. What an exciting and hopefully memorable week we'll have. On behalf of our National President, Anne-Marie Hudley-Simmons, and the rest of the board, I would like to welcome you to NAM Week 2021. Tune in each night, November 14th through the 19th, on Facebook and YouTube, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
My Lord, what a morning, when the stars begin to fall. The plaintive strands of this and other Negro spirituals have for centuries touched or pierced the hearts of their listeners. Slaves learned biblical stories and created a song form that has stood the test of time. They told of pathos in the lives of slaves, but were always filled with messages of hope. These songs had a number of very practical uses. They expressed joy and sorrow. They were used in worship services, and they also acted as a message system, rivaling the telephone of today. As the slaves sang about this God who would protect them and guide them to freedom, their captors believed that they were just entertaining themselves, and took comfort in thinking that the slaves were docile, happy, and satisfied. Spirituals had and still have the power to allow the performer to express the depths of their emotions. Slaves sang of joy in the midst of sorrow, hope in the midst of desolation, and the promise of a future when no future seemed possible.
Spirituals are the soul of our people. They are the foundation of our musical legacy. They are the most authentic music we ever created because they came straight out of the heart of the people. They were not written down. They came out of the work and the sorrow of slavery, and that's what they mean to me. And I use them to build my artwork on them. My mother also sang them around the house while she was cleaning or cooking or something. And I remember making up songs that sounded like little spirituals when I was walking to school. You have to respect and love the tradition. That's what I feel that what we do in America is that we throw things away too much, and we throw our heritage and our history away too much. And the young people coming up who want to be, especially choral conductors, need to keep alive the tradition of the spirituals, regardless of whose arrangement they use. I hope they'll do that. If you're a solo singer, keep alive singing the solos. In the past, almost every black solo singer finished their concert with the spirituals because they realized the greatness of the music. I, as a composer, try to integrate the spirituals in my most serious symphonies, and I hope that other composers would do the same thing. We have a heritage to build on, and we need to use it.
Did you hear spirituals in your home as a child?
Yes, I did. My grandmother would sing spirituals. I also learned spirituals at school. and they were a very big part of my life, my childhood.
Thanks.
I was very proud to know that the early African Americans, as a result of being brought to this country, and some being brought here as indentured servants, but others brought here in slavery, created this music to express many things, to express their longing for being back home. Now later that turned into a longing for going up north, and for some a longing to leave this world. I was very proud to know that I was a part of a heritage that created a body of music that really is the genesis for all American music today. The music that we know of as R&B, soul, gospel, jazz, all had its beginnings in the spiritual, work songs, field hollers, that sort of thing, which came out of the African American culture. My grandmother, also my mother, Lena McLean in high school, taught me several spirituals. But later, I guess, as I started studying them formally, is when I really had a appreciation for them. I think it's very interesting how the early African Americans, the slaves, used spirituals and music in everything that they did. Working in the fields, delivering messages about the Underground Railroad, talking about the birth of a child or the death of someone. All of these things went into song. I think that we do the basic 25 or 30 spirituals that are very, very popular, and I'm always talking to wonderful musicians like Roland Carter and Lena McLean and Jackie Harrison, and asking them, are you familiar with this melody? And then quite often asking these composers to set these melodies for me in classical renditions for the concert stage. A new melody that was sung to me over the phone by Lena McLean about death and transformation, which is called Hearse Keeps a Rollin', Somebody to the Graveyard. That was a spiritual that I had never heard before, and a new one for me. But what's so interesting about spirituals is that many of them might have the same melody or similar melody, but oftentimes different words. Some people know of Get Right Church and Let's Go Home, but some people call that I'm Going Home on Morning Train, or some people call there's a spiritual Wade in the Water, same melody for You May Run On for a Long Time. For example, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade. You may run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. You may run home for a long time. But let me tell you, God Almighty's gonna cut you down. Same melody, different words. Another spiritual that I said, talking about death. Hearse keeps a rolling, rolling, somebody to the graveyard. Graveyard making me feel like my time ain't long. Hearse keep rolling, rolling, somebody to the graveyard. Graveyard making me feel like my time ain't long. Which was kind of a mourning, a spiritual, kind of maybe maybe a dirge that would be sung as they were walking the casket to the gravesite. But I'm always trying to find different spirits. I think that we should embrace our heritage and realize that the price has already been paid, and that if we can remember where we've come from, we don't have to go back there. I think we have different callings in life, and I think that this might be one of mine, as did Harry Burley, Roland Hayes, Marian Anderson, and that list of great, great singers that preserved this music goes on. And also with the wonderful composers. There's a rich legacy in Nathaniel Dett and the women composers, Undine Smith Moore, Betty Jackson King. I mean, these are top-notch musicians that set the spiritual and treated the spiritual with the highest regard. So I embrace them with pride. The difference between a spiritual and a gospel song, know the difference in the genres of American music that were created by African Americans. Treat the spiritual with the utmost respect, not gospelize the spiritual. And it's so important with this prevalence of gospel music now that we realize and recognize that for what it is, but also recognize that the spiritual is a folk idiom, that gospel music is composed, but the spiritual is a music that sprang forth out from the people because of the situation that they were in at that time. And that realize that spirituals are arranged. Now, some people have composed compositions in the tradition of a spiritual, but to recognize what is a traditional Negro folk song and what is a composed composition, and to treat them accordingly. Other cultures, the Italian culture, they treat the Italian folk song in very high regard. The Germans treat the German folk lied with, they just don't put anything, throw anything into folk lieder. They treat it with much respect, and we need to do the same with the spiritual. Look at the text of a spiritual and try to come as closely as you can to an authentic way of speaking the language, a way that is not offensive, that mimics the Negro dialect, but a way that brings respect and regard to the text. And it might be a southern dialect, but to treat that. There's so much in the spiritual with the beat, with the rhythm, with the strong beats being on 1 and 3 in the spiritual. It's a very interesting thing. In swing and pop, the beats are on 2 and 4. But in the spiritual, the strong beat is always on 1 and 3, and to always lean in on that beat. There's so much that one can find. I find that I spend hours on maybe one phrase of a spiritual, trying to get the text right so that it doesn't sound too highbrow, no rolled R's, to make sure that the dialect is correct, to make sure that the rhythm is correct, to make sure that I have that steady. If the spiritual doesn't have that beat, I don't care how slow it is. If it's a slow, long rubato spiritual, it still has a strong pulse on 1 and 3. Or if the spirituals are come in several different forms. There's a long phrase rubato spiritual. There's a short, fragmented, syncopated, fast spiritual. There's the call and response spiritual. But they all have the beat. And if they didn't have the strong pulse, I don't know how successful they would be. And you have to make sure that the pulse is not too fast, that the ladies can't pat their feet sitting in the front row of the church, you know. There's so much that we can find in what one might think of as a simple arrangement of a spiritual. And quite often I find that classical musicians will spend hours on their Italian arias and hours on their German lieder, and the spiritual, they'll run a couple of times and they figure, oh, that's okay. And they won't even take the spiritual to their voice teacher. The voice teacher really won't spend that much time on it because, oh, that's not that serious. You can just wing that. Not so. They need to investigate the harmonies that the arranger has decided to put under this original folk melody. They need to listen to more than one arrangement of the spiritual to find out the differences in the melody. Where did this composer change the melody, where this other composer might have stuck with the traditional melody? The old recordings of some of the Fifth Jubilee singers, the old choirs, Hampton, Howard, listen to those recordings, and there's even some wonderful recordings of Lomax going into the fields in Alabama and just talking to different people working out in the cotton fields and having them sing melodies as they heard them with no accompaniment. It's a rich legacy, and it's a legacy that we as African Americans really need to take seriously, and in order to preserve it. If we take it seriously, the world will. It is my dream to record as many new arrangements of African American folk songs for the concert stage, for solo voice and piano, or for orchestra and piano. And I'm always working with composers to come up with new arrangements. And also, I like digging back and finding some of those older arrangements that, for some reason, the publishers have not continued to publish. They're out of print. Wonderful composers like Willis Lawrence James. Even some of Margaret Bond's pieces are out of print now. To revive this music and to bring them to the concert stage to the best of my ability.
Thank you so much. I've learned so much from you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Spiritual for me is an expression of hope and aspiration, exemplary of what our foreparents were going through the process, through slavery, and through their experience in this time, in this country. So the spiritual is really a legendary, a folk song first. A traditional, of course, we do not know who composed these songs, and also it's the remnants of, it's a combination for me of the hymns and the Christian experience that our African forefathers and experienced with the Christian hymns, connecting with the experiences they brought, or the music techniques or idiomatic expressions from West Africa, combining to make this unique form in this country. I guess probably the best experience for me with spirituals was my college experience. And when we at Hampton University on Sunday evenings would sing spirituals with the student. You had 1,800 students in an auditorium singing spirituals in what I would call the raw, because everybody, these were not the arrangements. These were just traditional experiences that we brought from our church experience, and they were led again by one of my mentors, who was a student of Nathaniel Dett also. So we would sit and sing spirituals on Sunday night at Hampton University. My early arrangements is one of which I used to hear my mom sing around the house. And I tried to capture that in an arrangement called I Want to Die Easy When I Die. Mom would sing that spiritual and hum and do what we called the moan in the middle. She would sing it as if no one else in the world was around. She was in a world by herself. dusting and going through the house and doing things, she could be interrupted by a neighbor knocking on the door and having a conversation 5-10 minutes and come right back and pick up that song exactly where she left off.
And as we sit here in Bethel Church, just to the next block is the Museum of African American History. And there is an exhibit there that deals with the lynching of black people. Everyone should see that, because when I went to see the exhibit, I recalled everything that my parents told me about their experiences in the South. When they would actually experience someone being lynched, they would start humming or singing a spiritual that would help them grow into a better person, maybe understanding, maybe what they could say or do would help people understand how precious life is. And it helped us with our humanity, certainly our religion. And my mother was a participant in the choir, and I went to choir rehearsal with her all the time. And I learned these songs as a child, preschool age. I could hum spirituals that I heard in the rehearsals and that I heard in the service. And I actually started studying piano with the choir director eventually. So as I grew, as I studied music and became more involved, I became the director of the youth choir of the church. And certainly all those songs that I had heard, I passed it on to them.
Greetings. On behalf of the National Association of Negro Musicians Incorporated's Executive and National Board, I welcome you to this year's NANM Week. We are 2 months into our year, and we are not a secret to the world because of our branches, the lifeblood of the organization, because of our members and all of our officers, be they local, regional, or national. First, a note of thanks to our regional directors, Professor Daniel Washington from the Central Region, Professor Vinroy D. Brown Jr., Eastern Region, Bernice Hall, Southeastern Region, Baron Coleman, Southwestern Region, and Timothy Davis, the Western Region. And to our second Vice President, Alfred Roberts, thank you so much for coordinating this event. We are dedicated to support, maintain, and enhance the production of music that has been composed, arranged, written, or performed by us. This year, as we rediscover and study the music from our diaspora, which includes the field hollers, blues, jazz, the spiritual, gospel music, oratorios, opera, musical theater, instrumental and vocal music, and electronic music, we are paying homage, special tribute to the Negro spiritual, which is the bedrock of our American history, reflective in our music, and the legacy, the foundation of our legacy. Let us continue to grow our organization, each one reach one or many, many more than one. Support the 2022 scholarship competition and follow us virtually on NAM Musically Speaking that you will see in the social media and throughout the year. Of course, plan now to attend another stellar convention in 2022 emanating from Atlanta. Enjoy these sessions and continue to ensure that NAM is not the best kept secret. We are spreading the word through various platforms, through social media, our professional organizations, our various platforms, our artists that we meet from time to time and engage with, and our family and friends. Again, welcome to NAM Week. Embracing the past and envisioning the future, let us put our intentional strategies to work and our best practices at play. I thank you for your support. As we sing from our national anthem, let us march on till victory is won. This is the voice of Anne Marie Hudley-Simmons, your national president. I am here for you always and pray that you stay safe and be well. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me for suggestions or questions through our website or by emailing me at ahudleysimmons@aol.com. Thank you so much. God bless you. Enjoy.
It's been said that NANM is our best kept 100-year-old secret. It is important that our secret be told to everyone. We stand on the shoulders of great musicians who over the years changed the landscape of music in this country. Now, we have the awesome responsibility to strategically build our next 100 years. This year, we are initiating a nationwide membership drive to get connected. We're making a special effort to engage new members, reclaim previous members, and retain those hard workers who do the work of NAMM every day. NAMM is an influencer, setting the standard for music excellence. Our programming, scholarship, and the music we share, stellar, because we understand the power of music. So remember, when we meet one, we'll invite one because we want you to be a part of us. Get connected to NAMM.